Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, Janet will stay at work late because I follow her instructions. The second story, corporate BS tried to stop my vacation, so I called their bluff taking sick days till they decided to just give me a vacation. The third story, top management decided they wanted to improve efficiency, but screwed up and got fired. The first story is, I always go the extra mile, Janet. I used to work in a large DIY store and had a manager, I'll call her Janet, that would run her department like a tyrant. I was her least favorite employee, and she made this clear from day one. One day in I got an annual performance meeting, she expressed how disappointed she was in me, and that I should go the extra mile for customers, and they're always right. This went on my personal file. This store had lots of younger staff and would regularly get unreasonable requests from customers, especially on timber cutting. This is when I had the genius idea to do every request a customer gave to see how far I could push it. A couple of weeks later, an elderly couple came in wanting a fireplace. I showed them the display model. It was high up on a wall, and the gentleman wanted to see the boxed wood color to see if it would match his furniture. He says the display is perfect, but this one is wrong. I informed him it's because the wood was coated in a special varnish, so it looks fresh on display. He says, can I have that one up there? I say, of course you can. It'll be ready by 8 p.m. tonight, as I have to take it apart and replace it with a boxed one. 3 hours later, Janet walks in and I'm building the full fireplace in the middle of the store. Janet, why the hell have you taken that down? It was fitted a week ago. Me, the customer wants this one and they're always right, so I've gone the extra mile. She storms off and I spend a full shift replacing it, taking my time. The customer was so happy I did it, they gave me 20 pounds and a thank you card. The following Friday, a local gospel choir came in at 19:30, 30 minutes from closing. Customer, hello child, could you do this timber order? It was almost a full pallet of timber sheets to be cut into lots of pieces. I explained it would take me a couple of hours and we closed in 30 minutes. We don't mind waiting, and you'll be doing the Lord's work. Who am I to deny the Lord's work, even as an atheist? I asked the store manager if I can do it, as it's for a local church, and they're doing a new stage for Sunday. Store manager said yes, please stay late, and Janet can stay late too to lock up after you, and I'll lock the rest of the store. Just get them to pay before we close. Janet was peeved. She was meant to go out to a party, but the choir was so happy they were singing gospel songs with my name put in them for 3 hours. When I was done, I loaded their van and they hugged me. A very nice review was later posted online, and my store manager was happy. Not Janet. She tried to give me a written warning for making her late, and I refused to sign it, and I said the customer was right, so I was right. The store manager was informed of my refusal to sign, and he went mental at Janet for giving me a warning. He said she was undermining his authority, and he told me to do it, and she was giving me petty warnings for nothing. My previous warnings by Janet were removed. Janet got a serious talking to and a warning. I still did the occasional unreasonable request for customers, if it would kill some time or was for a good cause, like building a full rabbit hutch out of scrap wood for a single dad and his little girl, and charging £1 for it, as we decided the price for off-cut wood. Most importantly, Janet learned to be careful what she pulled staff up on and left me alone. Janet was a total Karen. She went to Karen University to study the art of can I speak to your manager. Edit. Why would a choir wait around for 3 hours while you cut wood? The store was the size of a megastore, and it was really common for customers to think we were open late. We had a night staff team and it would look like we were open 24/7 from the motorway, with the lights on and staff walking around. The choir was wanting to get the timber the night before to start work in the morning, and came in a minibus with a large trailer and people to load it all. Her real name was probably Karen, but the OP had to change the names to protect the innocent. Haha, I love the part about the church and how you said you were an atheist. Gospel choir. Can you do something for us that will bring you overtime and coincidentally peeve off your manager? OP. Hell yes. I always want to say that if a manager has given you a poor performance evaluation that you feel is unfair, or that you disagree with, you have the right to file a written response to it. Provide evidence to support your rebuttal, and ask Human Resources to put it in your file. I had a manager at work. She didn't do anything but like to give everyone directions. One time, she ordered me to replace all the merchandise. I knew that these items had an expiration date and that I shouldn't have to replace them, but she insisted on it. I did what she said. The next day, the regional manager comes and asks me why goods that were supposed to be on the shelves and were on the shelves until yesterday are in the warehouse. I replied that it was the manager's order. She was reprimanded for removing goods that have not yet spoiled. For what she did it, I do not know. The next story is, want an accurate estimate? Well, I'll just triple the cost. This is not my story. It is my grandfather's that told me many years ago. My grandfather owned a plumbing company that bid for large jobs, like factories, schools. He even helped build a prison, which is like a city in itself. After a bid is planned and a contract is signed for both parties, the work can start, but only the work that's listed in the contract, and he did this for many years before selling the company and moving on. But one job he had in the last few years was a difficult one from the start, and what this project started with will be the reading material we today. I should note that he had made his company known to be one of the best bangs for your buck type of companies. Upon making a bid for different jobs, he would take some time to look over the building plans. This didn't take long for him because he had been doing this for a while and knew roughly how much things would cost. Example, if he knew he had to put a large water heater into a house, he knew how much it would cost to buy it and how long it would take to install it, i.e. labor, without having anything up. And this job was no different. He took a day or two looking over the plans and put in a bid, and the company really wanted him to take on the project because of his reputation. And I don't remember the exact bid he placed, but say it was $100,000 for the job. They see the bid he placed and they say, "That's crazy. I thought you were known to do jobs cheap." My grandfather, thinking that maybe he overestimated a few large ticket items, so he went back and looked them over and came back with a bid that was even more than the first one, with copies of the receipts that the big ticket items would cost, and it was about $150,000. When they saw that price increase, they went berserk and said something along the lines of this: "You need to go back and look at the small stuff. You must be crazy if you think we're going to give you that much money to do this job." So my grandfather thought this is ridiculous and got a textbook that he rarely ever brings out. It was a nationally recognized book that gave the cost of things like laying pipe, putting in fire sprinklers, ventilation pipes for different machines, just general stuff like that. And remember I said he only took about a day to do the first estimate? Well, it took him about a week after they asked him to re-estimate the job. He came back with a novel of calculations, and this book that confirmed all the cost. And the cost, you ask? Well, it was upwards of $300,000. They were dumbfounded on how he could get the triple of the original estimate and double the second one. With the textbook he had, the calculations from the book, and the receipts from the second estimation, he had all the proof he needed to get this bid. And all they could say was, "Okay, can you sign the dotted line?" And with that, my grandfather made $200,000 more than he was expecting from that job. After that job, he started to bring out that textbook a few other times, when he knew companies, and more money to throw at the project but didn't want to, but kept it out of a major of his bids because he wanted to keep his reputation. Edit. Some have mentioned that he was doing it for much cheaper than he should have done it. Doing it by the book accounts for the person being clueless of the trade, take the full amount of time given, and wasting material. My grandfather bid low because he knows from experience what this job will cost him, and that he will still make money on this job. And the costs I gave were just examples, because I don't remember exactly what he said they were. I think your grandfather did the right thing. This company wanted to save money, but he paid a lot more because of his greed. He didn't end up doing it for a third of the cost. He offered them that price and he thought it would be worth it to him. Then he came back with an offer that was official and much more expensive than he thought it would cost him. Your grandfather was a smart guy. Give the customer what they want. Make them want it. I used to sell a bike on the internet. He was taking up space in my garage, so I wanted to sell it faster. The dude who found my ad didn't believe I was selling the bike so cheap, so he turned it down. I found another buyer who picked up the bike the next day and I got my money. Haha, he just didn't believe it. The last story is, want to slow us down to make us faster? Okay then. I worked in a cabinet factory and had a good team lead and awesome boss. I was not the best employee, but I had solid numbers. My job at first was to sort out the fleshly cut of sheets of wood into an order specified by the documentation and put a sticker on each piece, so we knew where it went in the cabinets. After a while, I was moved to one of the large panel saws that cut the large 9x5 or 8x4 sheets of particle board wood. Not a fancy or stimulating job, but at the time the money was good. I routinely cut the wood in orders faster than the head office could keep up. In fact, our entire department was regularly faster than the rest of the shop. That was until new senior management came in. The new senior management decided to pay off 47 or so people shortly after they came on. They then the next day hired a relative on a high six-figure salary to help with a new project. The upper management decided they wanted to improve efficiency. They would do this by instituting a lean policy and procedure. What this meant was less wooden items would be cut, but more often. They started this at the farthest end of the shop, meaning that in a few months we would be hit. We thought we were a good and efficient shop, but hey, senior management has a new policy, so we will do it. They also decided to promote our manager. This was good for him, but our replacement was a moron. He literally argued with me about the age of one of our saws when they had stamped on them dates for when they were installed in big metal plates, 10 years apart, and argued that the plates were wrong. After a few months, most of the shop was under this new policy and it showed. We were literally being sent to other areas of the shop to help them out because they were falling behind. As I was the starting point for any cabinets or cuts that needed to be made, I had to stay near my saw. It did not take long for senior management to come speak to our department, informing us that we were inefficient and ruining their plans, and thus they decided for us to start instituting their plans. One batch at a time. Don't start another until the first is completely done. This slowed us down by about 50%. We almost started to go at the same pace as the rest of the shop, but it was painfully inefficient and slow, but we were still going faster than the rest of the shop. This also meant that we would have more wood waste, wood that is not big enough to be used for anything else than before, a lot more. Now the MC. I spoke to the other saw operator and decided that we needed to follow the lead in one batch at a time and do it as perfectly as we could. I worked on the generic wood types, the whites mostly for the backboards and main sheets. He worked on the specialty woods for the fronts of the cupboards. My batches were usually 3 to 4 times the size of his. We started to make sure the batch work we got was for one batch only instead of grouped together. We also made sure the cuts we were making were for only the batch we were working on, and making sure that we worked on the same batch together. This meant that when he finished a batch in 30 minutes, he had to wait or help me finish my batch, which took 2 to 3 hours, depending on the size. When our team lead saw this, he was upset at first, but he played along for a while. This slowed us down right to the point we needed to be at for their project. Not too long after, we were told that we had to find ways to go quicker, without breaking the new system, because customers were upset their 4-week orders were taking 6 to 8 weeks. That fall, the new senior management were all fired for screwing the company over and nearly making it go bankrupt. Shortly thereafter, we all went back to our previous ways, and productivity miraculously went way up. No wonder your bosses got fired. They destroyed the company. Trying something new is not a bad thing in and of itself, but it was poorly thought out and poorly done. I'm embarrassed by this kind of management. Even if they have no idea how something was done before, they should be able to look at the numbers. If it doesn't work, it was a learning experience that they can use in their next job, if they can find one. Don't forget to subscribe and have a nice day.